All right, let's dive into a really massive idea today. What if technology is making the whole concept of a country kind of obsolete? We're going to explore how digital networks are starting to challenge the rules of sovereignty that have been in place for like 400 years, and what that actually means for all of us. So, this is the big, provocative idea right from the source material. It's painting a picture of the very near future, like just around the corner, where your physical location, the actual ground you're standing on, is way less important than the networks you're a part of. The suggestion here is that being tied down to just one place, well, it's becoming a limitation, a bug in the system. And this is where it gets really personal, right? If geography is a bug, then could your citizenship, that one single passport you hold, be the biggest vulnerability for your money, your career, your freedom? It's a huge question, so let's unpack the logic behind it. So, for the last 4 centuries, the world's been running on one basic operating system, the nation-state. This whole system, which pretty much kicked off with the Peace of Westphalia back in 1648, is built on this idea that a government has total control over a specific piece of land. It's the foundation for our laws, our identity, our entire economy. But what happens when that OS starts to feel a little outdated? Yeah, think of the nation-state as a legacy OS, like an old piece of software. It was designed perfectly for an industrial world of factories and physical borders where money and people didn't move around so easily. But now, it's under massive pressure from a digital world of global networks where talent and capital are incredibly mobile. The system just wasn't built for this new reality.
And this mismatch, this clash between the old system and our new world, is creating some serious friction. That friction is putting a historic squeeze on wealth and the people who create it. Let's take a look at exactly what that pressure point is.
A huge part of the problem is debt. As you can see here, a lot of the traditional, established powers are carrying these enormous national debts, especially when you compare them to smaller, more nimble emerging hubs. So to pay for all that debt, what do? They have to increase what the source calls jurisdictional friction. And that's just a fancy way of saying they make it harder and more expensive to operate through higher taxes, more regulations, and a lot more surveillance. And the result of all that friction? Well, it's pretty predictable, a great migration. The idea is that we're going to see a huge acceleration of talent, capital, and digital assets just moving away. They're leaving these high-friction places and heading towards places that offer more freedom and opportunity. They're literally voting with their feet and with their wallets. So if the nation-state is the legacy OS that's crashing, what's the upgrade? This is where the source material introduces its core idea, the network state. A totally new model for how we organize ourselves, one that's built from the ground up for the digital age.
Okay, let's break this down because it's a lot. It starts online basically as a social network of people who are united by a shared goal or belief. From there, it grows its own culture, its own economy using crypto, and then eventually the goal is to pool all those resources to actually buy up physical land piece by piece all over the world.
You see, this is a fundamental flip of the script. In the 20th century, sovereignty was all about controlling a patch of dirt. But in the 21st, the argument is that true power comes from the strength of your network. Who you're connected to is becoming more important than where you are. Now, this might all sound super theoretical, like something out of a sci-fi novel, but the source material actually lays out a practical blueprint for how people can start putting this into action right now. It's a strategy for navigating this new world, so let's look at the steps. The whole strategy really boils down to this one simple idea. You want to reduce your exposure to all the things that slow you down and hold you back. Taxes, red tape, surveillance. And at the same time, you want to increase your connections to the networks that create value and opportunity. It's all about finding the path of least resistance for your life and your work. And here's the proposed 3-step game plan. First, you diversify your legal footprint. You use tools like Estonia's e-residency program so you're not dependent on just one country. Second, you invest in the physical infrastructure of this new world. Think private cities or charter cities to build the places where these networks can actually meet and grow. And third, you bring your identity online, making it digital, portable, and totally independent of any single government. So where does all this lead? This vision of becoming citizens of the cloud is a radical break from everything we've ever known. But this new frontier isn't without some pretty significant risks and a lot of unanswered questions. Yeah, this whole vision comes with some serious challenges. I mean, how do you guarantee physical safety when your whole community is scattered across the globe? If you don't have a traditional country, who protects your rights or gives you a safety net? And how do you make sure the leaders of these new network states are held accountable? These are absolutely critical questions that haven't been solved yet. So at the end of the day, this is the big takeaway. The core argument is that we're moving from a world where your country and your citizenship are just assigned to you at birth to a world where they become a conscious choice. You get to choose your network. You choose your nation. You choose what sovereignty actually means to you.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. If the old rules are being thrown out, what should the new ones be? If you were building a society from scratch for this new digital age, what would be your number one foundational principle? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.